4 minutes ago, Cory Booker did something nobody in that hearing room saw coming. He didn't go after Cash Patel the way everyone expected. No aggressive attacks, no hostile grilling, no cornering him with stacks of paperwork and impossible demands. Instead, he did something completely different. He warned him. Director Patel, Booker said, his voice soft, almost sad, carrying none of the aggression that had filled the chamber all day. You're his next sacrifice. You know that, right? When this falls apart, and it will fall apart, he's going to feed you to the wolves just like everyone else who ever tried to protect him. You're not his ally, Director. You're his insurance policy, and insurance policies get cashed in. Patel just looked lost for a second. Genuinely lost. This wasn't the fight he'd been preparing for all week, not the kind of heated cross-examination he'd survived for 5 straight hours. No, this was something else entirely. Something that landed in a way nothing else had all day. And then about a minute later, Booker handed him the proof. One document. That's all it took for Cash Patel to realize Booker wasn't bluffing. The document showed Trump was already setting him up to take the fall for everything. The FBI director didn't just go pale, his whole face hollowed out. He looked exactly like a man who just realized the person he'd risked everything for was already sharpening the knife. Let me roll this back for you so you understand how we got here. Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, February 11th, 2026. The clock on the wall reads 4:47 p.m. It had been absolutely brutal up to this point. 5 straight hours of accusations and hostile questions and demands for answers Patel couldn't give. 5 hours of senators from both parties taking their shots. Patel had survived it all so far, staying stiff and defensive like a man dodging bullets. Every question felt like a trap designed specifically for him. Every senator felt like an enemy waiting to catch him in a lie. Then it was Cory Booker's turn, and Booker's not like the others, not even close. The New Jersey senator, former mayor of Newark, ex-Stanford football player, Rhodes Scholar, the guy who's known across Washington for his ability to read people even when he fundamentally disagrees with everything they stand for. He doesn't interrogate witnesses the way prosecutors do. He talks to them. Sometimes that's much, much harder to take. Booker leaned back in his chair, looking completely relaxed. His voice when he started was almost casual. Director Patel, I've been sitting here watching you all day. 5 hours at that witness table. 5 hours defending choices that everyone in this room knows were wrong. 5 hours protecting a man who isn't here, who doesn't have to answer for any of it, who's probably playing golf right now while you take the hits for him. He paused and let that sink in. And I keep wondering something. Does he know? Does Cash Patel actually know what's coming? Patel frowned slightly. Does he know what, Senator? Booker gave him a sad smile. Do you know, Director? Do you know what happens to people who protect him? Have you actually looked at how this story always ends? The whole room shifted in that moment. Reporters who had been half listening looked up from their phones. Senators who had been reviewing notes leaned forward. Even the air in the chamber felt different somehow. Booker kept going, his voice still gentle but carrying weight now. I've been in Washington for 12 years, Director. I've watched a lot of people hitch themselves to powerful men, thinking loyalty pays off in the end, thinking if they just protect the boss long enough, the boss will protect them back. But it never works that way. Not with him. It never has. Michael Cohen protected him. Booker started counting on his fingers. Cohen was the fixer, the guy who handled everything, the guy who said he'd take a bullet for Trump. Where is he now? He went to prison while Trump stayed free. Rudy Giuliani protected him, America's mayor. Decades of friendship. Lost his law license, lost his reputation, lost everything. He's broken, disbarred now. Michael Flynn protected him. Pleaded guilty twice. Jeff Sessions protected him. Got fired by tweet after years of loyalty. William Barr protected him, called a traitor the second he was no longer useful. Booker kept counting. Mark Meadows, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, John Eastman. Every single person who stood up for Donald Trump ended up destroyed. Not by his enemies, Director. By him. The moment they became any kind of liability, the second it became convenient, he tossed them aside like garbage. He looked Patel straight in the eye. And you think you're different? You think your loyalty means something different than theirs did? Patel straightened up in his chair, trying to regain some control. Senator, I don't see how this line of questioning is relevant to the committee's oversight responsibilities. Booker raised one hand. I'm getting there, Director. Just give me a second. There's something I need you to see, something I think you deserve to know about. He pulled out a single sheet of paper from the folder in front of him. Plain white paper, no fancy government letterhead, no dramatic presentation. He didn't make a show of it at all. Before I show you this document, Booker said, I want to ask you something, not an accusation. Just an honest question between two people. Do you trust Donald Trump? I mean, really trust him. If things go sideways, if the walls start closing in, do you genuinely believe he'll stand by you? Patel's answer came out like he'd practiced it 100 times in front of a mirror. The president and I have a professional relationship based on mutual respect and shared commitment to the mission of the FBI. That's not what I asked, Director. Booker's tone was gentle, but you could hear the steel underneath it now. I asked if you trust him, if you believe deep down in your gut that he would ever put your interests before his own, if you think he'd sacrifice anything for you the way you've sacrificed for him. Silence. 3 seconds of it, then 5. Patel didn't answer. He couldn't. He didn't have to. Booker nodded slowly. I didn't think so, and you're not stupid, Director. I know you're not. You know exactly how this goes. You've watched him do it over and over to other people. And somewhere in the back of your mind, in a place you probably don't want to look at too closely, you know it's only a matter of time before it's your turn. He held up the document so Patel could see it clearly. This is a draft White House communications memo. It's dated January 28, 2026. That was 2 weeks ago. The White House counsel's office put this together. And someone in that office, someone who apparently thinks you deserve a heads up about what's coming, slipped it to my staff. If you've been following this Epstein files story and you want to understand what's really happening behind closed doors in Washington, please like this video and subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next, because this is the moment where everything changes. Drop a comment and tell me if you think Patel will flip. This could be the most important testimony we see all year. Booker started reading from the document. His voice was steady and clear. Quote, in the event of congressional or legal action regarding the Epstein document release, the following messaging framework should be employed. Primary narrative, FBI Director Patel acted independently and without White House knowledge or direction in making classification decisions. The president trusted Director Patel to handle the matter appropriately and was not aware of specific decisions regarding document suppression. End quote. Booker looked up from the paper and stared directly at Patel. They're already lining you up to take the fall, Director. 2 weeks ago, before you even sat down at this witness table, before these hearings even started, the White House was already getting its story straight. They were already drafting talking points designed to put maximum distance between the president and you. He went back to reading. Quote, secondary narrative. Director Patel may have misinterpreted guidance from the president regarding transparency priorities. Any appearance of coordination between the White House and FBI classification decisions reflects Director Patel's independent judgment, not presidential direction. End quote. Booker set the document down on the desk in front of him. Misinterpreted guidance, that's the phrase they're going with. When this whole thing blows up, when the cover-up falls apart completely, they're not going to say you were following direct orders. They're going to say you misunderstood what the president wanted. They're going to say you went rogue. They're going to swear under oath that the president had no idea what you were doing in his name. He leaned forward. They're setting you up, Director Patel. Right now, today, while you're sitting here defending him, while you're taking the heat for decisions he made, the man you've been covering for is already getting ready to throw you directly under the bus. And here's your proof, written down in black and white. 73 seconds had passed since Booker started reading that memo. In that span of time, something fundamental shifted in Cash Patel's face. All day long, he'd been on defense, stiff, careful. Every answer rehearsed and calculated. Now that carefully maintained facade cracked right down the middle. The confidence just drained out of him like water from a broken glass. What was left looked raw and completely unguarded. The look of a man realizing he's been betrayed by someone he trusted with everything. His eyes dropped to the table, his shoulders sag, his hands, which had been gripping the edge of the witness table so tightly his knuckles went white, suddenly went limp. For just a second, he wasn't the FBI director anymore. He was just a man who'd been hit with the worst possible news at the worst possible time. Senator Patel said, his voice was barely audible. That document doesn't necessarily reflect. Booker's voice softened even more. You don't have to defend him, Director. Not to me. Not right now. I'm not asking you to turn on him. I'm not asking you to testify against him. I just want you to see what's right in front of you. I want you to understand what's already been set in motion. He picked up the document again. This is what loyalty gets you in his world, Director. A memo with your name on it. A plan to make you the scapegoat. A strategy to save himself by burning you. That's the trade you made. Booker set it down carefully. Michael Cohen sat where you're sitting, well, metaphorically anyway. Different building, different committee, but same situation. He thought he was the trusted fixer, the guy who knew where all the bodies were buried, the guy who'd always be protected because he knew too much. Then he ended up in federal prison while his boss kept playing golf at Mar-a-Lago. Rudy Giuliani thought decades of friendship meant something, thought all those years of loyalty would count for something when it mattered. Now he's broke and disbarred, selling his apartment to pay his legal bills while Trump won't return his phone calls. He looked at Patel almost kindly now. You're next, Director. The memo says so, the pattern says so, everything we know about how this man operates says so. The only question left is whether you see it before it's too late or whether you see it after. The entire chamber had gone completely dead silent. This wasn't the fireworks people had been expecting. No dramatic confrontation, no smoking gun revelation. This was something quieter, something sharper, a moment of truth that was cutting deeper than any accusation possibly could. Booker went on. I'm going to ask you one more question, Director, and I want you to really think about your answer. Not because I'm trying to trap you or trick you into saying something you'll regret, but because your answer here could very well decide whether you spend the next 10 years in federal prison while he relaxes at Mar-a-Lago or whether you walk away from this intact. He paused for a long moment. If you had evidence that the president directly ordered you to bury those Epstein files, would you come forward with it? Would you tell the truth to protect yourself? Or would you stay silent to protect him, even knowing he's already planning to throw you away the second it becomes convenient? Silence. 31 seconds of absolute silence. 31 seconds of Cash Patel sitting there completely motionless, fighting some kind of internal war in his head. Loyalty versus survival. The promise he made versus the betrayal staring him in the face. 31 seconds that said more than any words could have. Finally, Patel spoke. His voice had changed. It was quieter now, less practiced, less rehearsed, more human. Senator, I need to consult with my personal legal counsel before responding to hypothetical scenarios regarding potential testimony or evidence. Booker nodded slowly, deliberately. That's the first honest thing you've said all day, Director. Now you're starting to think about yourself instead of him. That's smart. That's survival instinct kicking in because, trust me on this, he's only ever thinking about himself. He always has been. Booker started gathering his papers together. I'm not going to ask this committee for subpoenas today. I'm not going to demand your resignation. I'm not going to refer you for criminal prosecution. Not yet. He looked at Patel one more time. Take that document with you when you leave here today. Read it again tonight when you're alone. Think about every single person who trusted him and ended up completely ruined. Then ask yourself one very simple question. He stood up from his chair. When this all falls apart, and trust me, Director, it will fall apart, who's going to be left standing? The FBI director who hid the evidence or the president who told him to hide it and then pretended he knew nothing about it? Booker gathered the last of his papers. You're next, Director Patel. The memo shows it clearly. The pattern shows it. Everything we know about this man shows it. The only thing left to decide is whether you'll let it happen or whether you'll save yourself while there's still time. He started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. One more thing, Director. It's your call to make, but don't wait too long to make it, because they're already drafting the statements that pin all of this on you. The distance is already being created, the scapegoat is already chosen, and that scapegoat is you. The hearing technically continued after that. Other senators asked their remaining questions. Staff shuffled papers. The usual procedural business got handled, but something was fundamentally different now. Cash Patel had changed. The sure, confident, loyal defender who had walked into that hearing room was gone. In his place sat someone who had just glimpsed his own fate, someone who realized the man he'd risked absolutely everything for was already preparing to throw him away without a second thought. 4 minutes, that's all it took. No attack, no dramatic accusation, no theatrical confrontation. Just a simple warning delivered with brutal honesty. You're his next sacrifice. And barely over a minute later, when Patel actually read that White House memo for himself, when he saw his own name in those carefully crafted talking points designed to protect the president by destroying the FBI director, he knew Booker was telling him the truth. Michael Cohen, Rudy Giuliani, Michael Flynn, Jeff Sessions, William Barr, Mark Meadows. The list keeps growing and growing. Now Cash Patel knows with absolute certainty that he's on it. His name has already been added. 73 seconds to see the truth laid out in black and white. A lifetime ahead to figure out what comes next, to decide whether loyalty is worth prison, to choose between the man who made him FBI director and his own survival. Booker didn't take Patel down with overwhelming evidence. He didn't destroy him with hostile questioning. He did it with something much simpler and much more effective. Brutal clarity. The truth spoken plainly, and sometimes in Washington, that's the sharpest weapon there is.